to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are with episode 26, and I'm so glad to be here. And as always, I like to make this promise to you is I want to give you just a little bit of verbal caffeine that will energize your social media marketing and help you stay social. And after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I'm really stoked today to have a guest that I think is an amazing master connector on LinkedIn. And it's Steve Spiro. And Steve, welcome.
Hey, Lorraine. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you. My audience is really going to appreciate this so much, and I know you have a lot that you can share with us, and I'm so excited to hear how you're going to answer my questions. And I'm just
as excited to hear myself too.
But the first thing I want to ask you is just, can you tell my audience a little bit about what you do and a little bit about your business and just share anything else that you think would be helpful to my audience right now as far as who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's funny, a lot of times, I know not you, Lorraine, but a lot of people want to put me want to put people in a box, right? And I don't fit nicely in a box. That's why I've kind of created the kind of master connector name, because there's a lot of pieces to me. So real briefly, born and raised in the Bronx. My dad was an entrepreneur, owned a liquor store, and wound up dissuading me from going into that. So I wound up going into advertising marketing, went to high school and college for that. Got out, couldn't get a job, so started a small company, an advertising company in New York City. Did that for a lot of years. Moved around in that industry, and then eventually the industry, there was some challenges financially, and I, found myself out of work and pivoted into technology, and then eventually into consulting. And through that pivot, networking and self-development and, me growing as a person, I was always a shy, introverted kid from the Bronx by nature, and kind of eventually had to get out of my shell and started to become this networker. And today people refer to me as the master connector, right? So I've got like 16,000 contacts on my phone and over 11,000 connections on LinkedIn. And I do some speaking. I do the consulting work. I help companies streamline and automate how they communicate with their clients utilizing artificial intelligence, hardware and software stuff. But speaking, and I've got this LinkedIn live show I do at 2:00 on Fridays. I do a video post, Fired Up Fridays, on Friday afternoons. And it's a blast and just enjoy it. I also volunteer as a mentor for SCORE. So a lot of things kind of in that little umbrella as a master connector. And that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. And so, it's funny how you say the term master connector, but the other thing that you said is you are actually really good at networking, and it's all a part of it, connecting, networking. And what is your secret, for staying, for doing networking on LinkedIn? So, we have the face-to-face networking, which isn't happening too much. But then on LinkedIn, there's a certain etiquette we have when it comes to networking and reaching out to people. What is your secret when you're connecting with people and networking on LinkedIn?
I think the first thing that I talk about, I live, and that is to be authentic and to be yourself, not try to be somebody you're not try to sell people. It's the most annoying thing that I feel is when you're getting pitched. But to go out there, reach out with no agenda, or if the agenda is anything, the agenda is how can I be of value to you? Not what service can I provide you? No. How can I be of value to you? How can I connect you to somebody? Is there a cool book that I read recently that maybe would be of value to you? Or is there someone in my network I can connect you to? Right? So what can I do to add value to you? I think if you do that with that heart, with that spirit, to me, it's I hate saying it like this, but it's the secret sauce to be successful in general, not just on LinkedIn, but in general.
Right. And I find you said it. I find there's so many people out there on LinkedIn right now that they're not actually trying to connect, be genuine when they connect. And they start out, a lot of the big people on LinkedIn will say, we've got a lot of sales pitchers out there, people who immediately it's almost a disconnect. You
Right.
connect with somebody and then all of a sudden they say, will you buy my cup of coffee, or will you buy my brush, or will you buy my bottle of oil, or whatever? And it's like, but I don't even know you, and you're assuming, and you don't know me, and you're assuming that I need that, which is kind of a little scary in itself. So my next question is, it's kind of interesting. So one thing that's really hard is I have a lot of clients that, and I tell them this all the time, is that one of the things about getting really good at networking on LinkedIn is you actually have to be on LinkedIn. It's a lot of people out there, they put their profile out because they were told they had to, but they never go back. So as a result, you've got maybe people who are lurking and stalking instead of being a contributor or an influencer on LinkedIn. So my question is that my clients are having trouble with that whole connection piece. So what could you tell them that would make them feel, yes, be authentic, you said, and you said that, you need to just be yourself, but what else could you tell them? What is something they can do to reach out without it feeling too awkward?
Well, first of all, the first thing I tell them is to make sure they're listening to you and following your advice, Lorraine, because you were definitely an expert. So, and you didn't tell me to say that, you didn't pay me to say that, but I'm telling you that for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But here's the thing. I mean, LinkedIn, some people look at LinkedIn as kind of like a glorified place to post your resume. And if that's all you're going to do with it, don't bother, right? But if you're gonna use it, it's really an amazing platform. It's a place that you can create a community with. And, in order to create relationships, right, you can't have a relationship with somebody that you barely ever talk to or ever see. So you have to be active, right? And you got to embrace it. And so exactly what you said, be active, right? You got to, go around and read some of the posts that people are putting out and comment. Don't just like, comment, right? It's a really good practice to put the little @ sign in their name and say real good, point, Lorraine Duncan, right? @ Lorraine Duncan. And obviously now that's going to broadcast out and it's going to get more, more credibility and more exposure, right? And just be active. Make sure you're doing things, right? I love posting. I love doing videos. I'm doing videos every week, but if that's overwhelming, just make sure you're there. And if you participate, you'll get rewards from it, right? Let's just say this, right? There are predators, there are stalkers, yes. But 99% of the people out there are not that. So, I was talking to somebody on a different topic, right? There's the Pareto principle, the 20-80 rule, right? And it's probably in stalker land, it's probably way less than the 20%. But even if it was, if you're going through, a certain amount of people, certain amount of connections, you don't know if 80 is not who you're looking for and 20 is who you're looking for. To get to the 20, you don't know. You could go through all 80 before you get to the 20 good ones, right? You don't know how the deck is shuffled, right? So if there's a few stalkers out there and you've gotten a few, don't get discouraged by it, right? There are a lot of good people out there. And I think with COVID, people more now than ever want to connect. They want a human connection. And this is a great platform to do it.
I think about you, and like I said, I probably have known you for a couple of years now. I don't know you really well. I met you at a networking event, of course, absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
But, out of all the platforms, you could have been on Instagram, or you could have been on Facebook, or you could have been tweeting 24/7, but you chose LinkedIn to really hone it in. Why did you choose LinkedIn? What was it about LinkedIn that you were attracted to?
That's a great question. And so number one, nothing wrong with the other mediums, but honestly, we're all, I hate using the word busy because people wear busy like a badge of honor, but we're all productive. We have a lot going on in our life. And although COVID has given us time, we filled it in with other things, right? We have got stuff going on. And honestly, I want to connect with people, but ultimately I'm looking to do business. So I don't need to know, Janie went for a cup of coffee. Now, obviously with COVID, it's a little bit different, but I don't need to see that post or somebody's fake, lifestyle on social media. That just, to me, it doesn't help me. In fact, if you watch the Netflix show, The Social Dilemma, you could see it's a trap you can get wrapped up into. So LinkedIn is less of that. There's a little bit of that, but a lot less of that. And you're there just to really, the way I look at it is to add value and to make sure that you can, do business. It's not. And now, granted, some industries it's very lifestyle focused, and it might be more effective to be on those other mediums. But in the world that I live, it's a much more effective platform because it's all about business, and that's really the world I want to be in terms of this.
Right. And speaking of that, is there anything that you can say to business owners why they should be on LinkedIn other than, it's B2B? Because that's the first thing people say, oh, I'm on LinkedIn because it's B2B. But is there any other thing that they're missing or that they should be thinking about why they should be on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact. You probably know better, Lorraine, than I do. But the demographics, right? You're going to have the CEOs and the CFOs and some of the high level executives that probably are they've got a high net worth more than likely, right? So if you're trying to attract certain clientele, if you're even going in that direction, you've got a better shot, So I think it's a great place for attracting people that are serious, right? I mean, there's a time and place for everything, but to me, it's a great place for that.
Right. I always like to ask this question of people when I'm interviewing them and talking with them. But for LinkedIn itself, what has been the best connection that you have ever made on LinkedIn and why?
If some of the people out there listening to this, they may have heard some of them. I've told the story a couple times. It's probably the one that I think resonates the most with me. I was in a different industry at one point. I dabbled in outsourced HR and great experience. And I was actually looking to, and we might have actually originally connected when I was in that world. Now that I think about it, but anyway, so, there was a client that I was looking to acquire, and it was tracking that we were going to do business together. And then all of a sudden she went dark, and, I happened to, at some point, I don't remember exactly the sequence when I connected with her on LinkedIn. And I, at that point was posting and talking about the power of mentorship and how effective it's been for me. And so out of the blue, she reached out. She said, "Hey, I saw your post. I'd love to, grab lunch." She said, "My treat. And I'd like to talk to you about how you might be able to mentor me. I'm thinking about a, career change." And I said, "Okay, sure." So we wound up grabbing lunch. And of course I helped her, gave her some thoughts to think about and some advice and whatever. But at the end of the conversation, I was able to say, "Hey, I got to ask you a question." So we were tracking on this and what's the story. And by having the conversation with her, I was able to uncover she had some misperceptions about what we were about to move forward in. I was able to clear it up. And long story short, she became a client. So that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for LinkedIn and me posting and then actually having the ability to have a conversation. Again, in today's world, that might have been a virtual coffee or a virtual lunch, right, with COVID. But at the same time, the results would have been, I'm sure, the same.
That's awesome. I love stories like that. And I've heard many, many different stories from different people about how they've connected with somebody and then even got more connections because they connected them with other people. And I think that's the real power of LinkedIn. And so the last thing that I want you to talk about a little bit is I'm intrigued. I haven't had a chance to catch the series yet, but you are a co-host of this show, LinkedIn Live. I want to hear a little bit about what the show's about and what your intentions are with it. And also, I just want to encourage all my audience to definitely go on and listen to the show. I think it meets on Fridays at 2 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Tell us about it and tell us what your desire for it is and what your intentions are and how it could help a business owner.
And I think, Lorraine, we're talking about you being one of our panelists on that show, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't wait for that. So, yeah, I mean, so number one, I mean, it's a privilege. It's an honor. I've heard other people that applied for LinkedIn Live. I mean, anyone could go on Facebook and Instagram and do a live show, but LinkedIn is pretty picky. And so to have the ability, the privilege to be on and do LinkedIn Live is pretty exciting. So, and I was struggling with how to leverage it, what to do with it. I knew I wanted to broadcast. I wanted to, continue to get the message out. My personal mission is to inspire people and to help people. And, being a shy, introverted kid from the Bronx to becoming this master connector, I want to really help other people know they could do it too and inspire people in many different ways. So I figured, okay, we have this show, and the reason I chose Cameron, and I think we sort of selected each other, is because he's got this show he does every day at 11 o'clock called Biz Dev Live, and he's a great personality. He really knows how to, he knows the technology. So I said, all right, let's partner together and do this together, because I'm kind of a little bit clueless on how to make this all work, and so it's been great. And so the intention, there's really just, again, along the same lines of getting the personal brand out, right? We named it the Master Connection Series as a playoff on the Master Connector, right? It's different topics every week. This week coming up on tomorrow, well, I don't know what this is going to air. So, but this Friday the 4th, it's going to be on, and you could probably go back if you go on and you can watch the broadcast after it airs. But that's going to be on, the power of posting regularly and why. We're going to be doing another one on why grow a big network, and another one on, what's your story? Do you have a story to tell? And there's a bunch of different great topics. And we get on a panel of it's right now it's 4 plus Cameron and I, and very lively, and a lot of interaction, and we got audience participation with questions coming in, and it's pretty awesome. So, what's the intention? Just to continue to build the brand. We're picking people that are subject matter experts that are great at connecting and networking, have a pretty large following themselves, but could add value and just continue to grow the brand and get the message out and inspire other people. And that's really it. No other agenda. I mean, will I monetize something along the lines of this one day? Sure, but I'm a big sow and reap guy. You eventually sow good, you plant good, you will eventually reap good, and I know that for sure. So it's just sowing good seed, if you will, is really the intention right now.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have a lot of great topics. I literally my podcast this week was about posting on LinkedIn. So kind of interesting.
Perfect. Yeah.
If you were going to say one, there's people post a lot of stuff. So I have this like inside joke now with other LinkedIn users that the other day I literally saw a meme on LinkedIn, and I was very upset. I guess you can call me a LinkedIn snob. I kept on thinking that, oh no, those Facebook people are infiltrating LinkedIn. This is scary. But seriously, what are the things that you think add value when it comes to posting? What are some subjects or topics or things that people should be writing about, other than I always tell people to write about something that's relevant to what your audience needs. Like, so for me, my audience needs social media and social media marketing. So I always say, I always post things on how to better do social media marketing, or, I'm always posting something like that. And I noticed, here's an interesting thing before you answer this, but what I've noticed is that lately I've been posting a lot more really good stuff, and not always long drawn out things, but sometimes I'll put a video on, or sometimes I'll just put like some statistics out or something like that. And I notice now that like I'm getting more visibility, and it's really like more so than like if I was on Facebook and I posted the same thing. So what do you think are really good things to post for, like, if, like you're a business owner you can go specific with a trade or a specific profession, or you could just, say something generic if you'd like. But
yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. It's another great question. So, I mean, number one, what you don't want to post is political and overly religious. And, unfortunately, those are things that you see, especially over the last month or so with all that was going on and still continues to go on with the elections. You want to attract, not alienate, right? And unfortunately, especially if it's political, half the people are going to not like you, and that's not going to be attractive, right? That's good for your Facebook, your little Facebook group, not appropriate, I don't think, on LinkedIn. But what, and that's such a hard question because there's so many great topics, right? But there's a lady that I know, Emily, who's in my network, and she's a happiness coach. So I said, listen, Emily, you're great. You're very articulate. You've got, great personality. You're warm. I said, why not go on and just do some videos? And the subject shouldn't be selling what you do. That's the point. Don't sell what you do. But you could talk, like you said, Lorraine, you could talk about, something of value that relates to what you do. So she goes on and every week she's doing it on Wednesday. She calls it Get Over the Hump Wednesday. In happiness, right? So she gives some kind of happiness related message, whether it's mindfulness, sort of thing or whatever, just something to add value. I think that's the most important thing. Whatever you do, come up with something that it would be valuable for people, not pitching what you're doing, but something of value. And you need to get over, in my opinion, that, well, they should be paying me for this information. Get over that. That's a 1950s, 1970s kind of mentality. That's not the world we're in today. The world we're in today is people want to see that you add value, and then they'll want to do business with you, right? You got to give before you get. And that's good. That's good way to live in general. So that's my thoughts. It's so generic, but not, No,
but it was a great example. I mean, perfect example. And I think with the last comment you said is that you can't charge for content and stuff like that. There's a great, guy out there who posts so much stuff and so much value. Gary V, we call him.
Yeah.
And Gary V says you should be giving your good content away for free. Where you're going to make money is in that relationship, and it's going to be more on a consulting level or more on a bigger package level. So you got to think that way. The other thing is I want to just add something you said, and I shared this last week on my podcast, is that when I'm posting something, I have a qualifying question that I ask myself. So everything that I post, I'll say to myself, how is this going to help? If somebody's reading this, how is it going to help that person reading this? And that's my main concern. It's really not about me, how it helps me. Because, then it would be like, if I was only talking to me, it would be useless to even post it. But the thing is how is it going to help? How is it going to make them better? How is it going to improve them? How is it going to help them with their pain? For instance, if I'm having trouble figuring out what to post, well, you're going to be talking about this on Friday. How am I going to help them figure out what to post? How often should I post? And that's different for everyone. There's not a really great analytics when it comes to LinkedIn. Maybe I don't know it, but as far as the analytics on when to post, I know when to post on Instagram. I know when to post on Twitter, and I know when to post on Facebook. There's no little dashboard that you can go to.
Right.
You're really, you get the most people that you're connected to at this time. Someday LinkedIn may do that. That would be awesome. But LinkedIn has this other valuable tool in the messaging system where if the green dot is on, you know that they're live. So you can reach out to them at that point and talk to them if you needed to. So it's even better. So, but the thing is we always have to keep in mind I think it's such a good qualifying question. I'm sure you would agree that how am I going to serve them? How am I going to help them? How is this piece of content going to move them forward one step? So,
yeah, I want to add just one thing, if you don't mind. It kind of relates to what you're saying, which I agree, is for people to really believe that it can help them. And that's why I mentioned the Emily story, right? People understand and learn and relate through stories. So I can't say I'm perfect at this, but whenever I am posting content, especially if it's a video, I often try to tell a story of something that's happened with me or something else that I've heard, versus just, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, right? People don't want to be talked at. but they learn through stories. They relate through stories. They remember through stories, especially if those stories kind of start to, create an emotion within us, right? And then it really gets stored into the subconscious of our brain when there's emotion attached to that. So just the other thing I wanted to mention, but yeah, I agree with what you said wholeheartedly.
I totally agree with this whole story thing. Just think about some of the commercials that you've seen over the years that have reached that emotional level. Like if, I don't know if you're Italian or what your nationality is.
Eastern European mutt.
Yeah, but if you think about that ragu commercial, for instance, that they bring the family together, and it just gives you such a neat feeling about family. Or Subaru's commercials. I've said this over and over again about, especially that one that they did during the Super Bowl that time where there was this big car crash. And the police officer says to the ambulance guy, they lived. And then they get to the tow wrecking place, and then you hear they lived. And then a guy is walking out with his family, and there's a brand new Subaru, and they say, we lived, and it wasn't about the engine or the features. It was about life. And right. So the bottom line is that storytelling is so important. People want to hear your story, and don't ever hold back your story if you have something to share that might help somebody else. I think that's so very, very important. I have one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. But you mentioned earlier that you have like over 11,000 connections on LinkedIn. So as someone who's always connecting with new people, and I'm sure you have those 11,000 connections because you're an open networker, which means that you probably have some criteria around how you connect with people on LinkedIn. But what is like the one thing that you did to get up to 11,000? Because people are going to ask that. So I'm just, I'm asking you that.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's a couple of things, right? Number one, LinkedIn has some, I don't know what you would call it, some technology where it actually links up with your email, with your contacts in your phone. And so you can go ahead and I started out, remember, I had a very large network in my phone already. So when I went onto LinkedIn, it was easy enough, and it just it blasted basically just about everyone on my phone. Hey, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. So that jump started it a bit. But it's an on-purpose event. You need to go in and connect. And I, every now and then I'll go in and see who I want to connect with. And, yes, I am open to a lot of people, but, no offense to anybody, but if somebody from Zimbabwe is going to connect with me, I'm probably not going to accept it. If somebody who doesn't have a picture, or somebody who, doesn't have they got a picture of them in the bathroom with the camera and, in the mirror show, come on, I want to, it's got to be a relatively professional shot. So there's a few things that are criteria. If their profile has like no content to it, they're probably some kind of fake, whatever, hacker trying to, one of those weird, scammy things going on. So I have some criteria, but in general, I'm connecting, and then some people connect with me. But it's an on-purpose event, right? And so, I know LinkedIn nowadays has some regulations as to how many people you could send out connect requests to on a daily basis and weekly basis. So you got to stay within the lines of that. But it's on purpose. You're just building your network. I make it a habit as when I meet people, and I still do networking these days through Zoom, or if I meet people out in the community, I make it a habit to go on and connect with them afterwards, right? In addition to to me, LinkedIn is an amazing CRM. It really is, and keeps track of stuff, and you can do a lot with it. So anyway, it's an on-purpose event. Doesn't just happen organically. You got to be purposeful to build a network. But then listen, we heard it. It's become a cliche. Your network is your net worth, right? LeBron James gets paid, close to $1 billion lifetime contract because he has a huge network. So that's my feeling. Grow a big network.
Yeah. And also the other thing that I always do too, when I'm connecting with people, especially if it's someone I don't know, I try to personalize it a little bit, but I also I look to see if they're active on LinkedIn. So I try, the other day I was trying to connect with a few people in a certain profession, and I got to one person, they hadn't been on in like almost 18 months. So I said, probably not a really good person to connect with.
Probably not, yeah.
So make sure if you are reaching out and being a master network like Stephen, that you just are definitely, seeing who's active and who's not, because
Good
that
tip,
will help you a lot. So thank you for joining me. And I always offer this to, my friends and colleagues that come online and everything with me. Is there anything that you want to offer? I already mentioned your show, so definitely catch that on LinkedIn. Connect with Steve on LinkedIn, and write a personal note. I don't like the generic notes. So just write, hey, I heard you on Lorraine's podcast. Connect with him. But is there anything else you want to add? Is there anything that you have coming up that you'd like people to join, or I don't know?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. If I also have a URL called master-connector.com. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me that way, but LinkedIn is even, it's kind of sort of a great landing page for me, to learn more about me. Come join us on the show, Friday at 2:00. Look out for my Friday to Friday videos. And I'd love to connect with whoever's listening out there and see how I could add value to you. Right. I'm not on this show I'm on the show because of you, Lorraine, but I'm not on the show to necessarily promote anything per se. And, but definitely just to share inspiration for people and hopefully give people hope that they also, a shy, introverted person, whether you're from the Bronx or not, can really become a master connector as well. So that's all. Thank you again for having me on.
Awesome. And thank you for being on. And I just want to thank everybody out there for listening. And if you have any questions about anything with social media on LinkedIn, you can ask me. You can ask Steve about LinkedIn. And I'm sure he can help you with all the other mediums too, because there's so many. He has so much knowledge when it comes to social media. And so, again, I will see all of you soon. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.